I want to be royalty. I want to have power. So I'm learning about all of the monarchs in England, throughout history. It's the conquerors and the ones that inherited all of their wealth and glory. I guess I plan to do both. King Henry VII, the first Tudor monarch, now in the House of Tudor. He reigned from 1485 to 1509 and was the final winner in the Wars of the Roses and the last king to be crowned after battle. He was known as the Winter King, right? Kind of frosty demeanor. Henry VII overthrew King Richard III at the famous Battle of Bosworth Field. As a reminder, Richard III was the unloving uncle to Edward V. He declared Edward V and his prince brother illegitimate and imprisoned them and possibly murdered them because they disappeared off the face of the earth. Back to King Henry VII. His mother was Lady Margaret Beaufort, pronunciation to be determined. Lady Margaret Beaufort was a major figure in the Wars of the Roses. She was a descendant of King Edward III and, thus, based on this, made a claim to the English throne for her son Henry Tudor. Henry VII married Elizabeth of York after his victory at the Battle of Bosworth Field, which marked the very end of the Wars of the Roses. As I just told you, I don't mean to be redundant, but there's a lot of facts to keep track of here. Elizabeth of York was the daughter of Edward IV from the House of York. Makes sense. They had 7 children, one of whom was the famous future king-to-be Henry VIII. Henry VII's oldest son and heir, Arthur, died from sweating sickness. That sounds like a lot of fun. It was like some kind of virus, but it did wipe a certain percentage of the population out. He died from sweating sickness not long after marrying Catherine of Aragon. As a result of this, Catherine of Aragon was married off to Arthur's brother, Henry. And Henry not only inherited Catherine, but he also inherited the throne. King Henry VIII of the House of Tudor. He reigned from 1509 to 1547. Henry was most famous for his relentless pursuit of a male heir, which led him to marriage to 6 wives. His first wife was Catherine of Aragon, who was the daughter of Isabella I of Castile and Ferdinand II of Aragon. Catherine and Henry's daughter was Mary, also known as Bloody Mary, and yes, we'll get to the eventual Queen Mary later on. Henry fell in love with Catherine of Aragon's lady-in-waiting Anne Boleyn. He formed the Church of England so that he could secure an annulment from Catherine, and he did this so that he could marry Anne Boleyn. The future Queen Elizabeth I was the product of this ill-fated union between Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. We'll discuss Elizabeth I later as well. Henry ended up losing interest in Anne, namely because she, like Catherine of Aragon, couldn't bear him a son. Henry accused Anne of adultery, even relations with her own brother. On May 19th, Anne was beheaded at the Tower of London, the first English queen to be publicly executed. Anyway, moving right along to wife number 3 for Henry, Jane Seymour. She gave Henry a son, who became King Edward VI. Edward VI's reign, though, didn't last too long because at the age of 15 he became ill and died. Edward VI was the first English monarch to be raised as a Protestant, and he made things particularly tough, just like his daddy did, for his devout Catholic sister Mary. But that's another story for another time. Edward's mother, Jane Seymour, also died in an untimely death shortly after giving birth to Edward.